The sun is setting, and the time for stories has come. Today, I will tell you the tale of a young girl named Nandi, who lived in a village not too far from here. This is a tale that has been told from generation to generation, a story of courage, love, and the wickedness that can fester in the hearts of those who are meant to protect us. Nandi was a bright and beautiful girl, with eyes that sparkled like the stars, and a heart as pure as the waters of the great river. She lived with her father, who was a kind and gentle man, and her mother, who was known throughout the village for her wisdom and kindness. But as life sometimes has it, Nandi's mother fell ill one season, and despite all efforts, she passed away, leaving Nandi and her father in deep sorrow. Now, Nandi's father loved his daughter dearly, but he feared that without a mother, Nandi would not have the guidance she needed to grow into a strong woman. So, after some time, he decided to marry again. The woman he chose was called Kelechi, and she was known for her beauty, but also for her sharp tongue and cold heart. Nandi's father, however, was blinded by her charm and did not see the darkness that lay beneath her smile. At first, Kelechi pretended to be kind and caring, showering Nandi with gifts and sweet words. But once she had secured her place in the household, her true nature began to show. She was jealous of Nandi's beauty and the love her father had for her. She despised the way the villagers admired Nandi and how they still spoke of her late mother with reverence. One day, while Nandi's father was away on a long journey, Kelechi's cruelty began to surface. She would give Nandi the hardest tasks in the house, making her fetch water from the farthest well and sweep the compound until her hands were raw. When the food was prepared, Kelechi would give Nandi the smallest portions, keeping the best for herself and her own children, who had come to live with them. But Nandi was not one to complain. She did as she was told, hoping that by doing so she would win her stepmother's love. Yet, the more Nandi tried, the more Kelechi's hatred grew. The villagers began to notice Nandi's growing sadness, but Kelechi was clever. She would put on a mask of concern whenever others were around, pretending to care for Nandi. While in private, she treated her like a servant. One evening, when the moon was high in the sky, Kelechi called Nandi to her side. She handed her a small basket and told her to go into the forest and pick the sweetest berries she could find. "But beware," Kelechi warned with a sly smile. "Do not go too deep into the forest, for there are spirits that roam there at night." Nandi, being a dutiful child, took the basket and set off into the forest. As she walked, the trees whispered in the wind, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. She picked the berries as she was told, but soon she found herself deeper in the forest than she had ever been before. The air grew cold, and the sounds of the night became eerie. Just as she was about to turn back, Nandi heard a soft voice calling her name. She followed the sound and soon found herself in a small clearing, where an old woman sat by a fire. The woman was dressed in rags, her face wrinkled with age, but her eyes were bright and kind. "Come closer, child," the old woman said. "Why do you wander in the forest alone at this hour?" Nandi, feeling safe in the presence of the old woman, told her everything about her mother's death, her father's new marriage, and the wickedness of her stepmother. The old woman listened intently, nodding her head. When Nandi had finished, the woman smiled gently and said, "You have a pure heart, my dear, and that is why you have found your way to me. I am not just an old woman, I am a guardian of this forest, a spirit who watches over those who are in need." Nandi's eyes widened in surprise, but she felt no fear, only a deep sense of peace. "Your stepmother's cruelty will not go unpunished," the spirit said. "But first, you must do something for me. Take this small pot of honey." She handed Nandi a tiny clay pot, "and when you return home, offer it to your stepmother as a gift. Tell her it is the sweetest honey in all the land, and that it will bring her great joy." Nandi thanked the old woman and hurried back home, the basket of berries forgotten. When she arrived, Kelechi was waiting, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. But when Nandi presented the honey and told her of the old woman's words, Kelechi's greed got the better of her. She snatched the pot from Nandi's hands and without a second thought, dipped her fingers into the honey and tasted it. For a moment, her eyes lit up with delight, for it was indeed the sweetest honey she had ever tasted. But then, her face twisted in pain, and she screamed, clutching her throat. The sweetness turned to bitterness, and the honey burned like fire. Kelechi's screams echoed through the night, waking the entire village. But when the villagers arrived, all they found was the empty pot of honey on the floor, and Kelechi gone. Some say she ran into the forest, never to be seen again. Others believe that the spirits took her as punishment for her wickedness. As for Nandi, she lived in peace with her father, who returned from his journey and was heartbroken to learn of what had happened in his absence. He vowed never to marry again and devoted his life to his daughter, ensuring that she was loved and cared for. And so, my dear ones, the tale of Nandi teaches us that no matter how dark the world may seem, kindness and a pure heart will always prevail. The spirits of the land watch over those who are good, and the wicked will always meet their fate. Now, the night grows late, and it is time for sleep. Remember this tale, for it carries the wisdom of our ancestors. Good night, my little ones, and may your dreams be filled with light